Thanks so much for being with us here on KXAN Live. Will Dupree in the KXAN Live studio here in Austin. We go now to Washington, D.C. The White House is hosting a news conference featuring President Joe Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Let's listen in to that conversation beginning right now.
Well, it's particularly meaningful to talk with one another in person, look each other in the eye, because leadership through this terrible crisis has inspired the Ukrainian people, as you have done, Mr. President, and the American people and the entire world. This visit to Washington, your first trip outside Ukraine since February, comes as President Putin has escalated his attacks, his brutal attacks, targeting critical infrastructure to make life as hard as possible for not only innocent Ukrainians, but children and young children, and everything from orphanages to schools. It's just outrageous what he's doing. And as we've heard, as we head into the new year, it's important for the American people and for the world to hear directly from you, Mr. President, about Ukraine's fight and the need to continue to stand together through 2023. This visit also falls on the 300-day mark of Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine. 300 days since Putin launched an unprovoked, unjustified, all-out assault on the free people of Ukraine. 300 days of Ukrainian people showing Russia and the world their steel backbone, their love of country, and their unbreakable determination, and I emphasize unbreakable determination, to choose their own path. To Ukrainian people, I say to them all, you have demonstrated, you have shown your strong stand against aggression in the face of the imperial appetites of autocrats who wrongfully believe they might be able to make might right, and they're not able to do it. Thus far, they've stood alone, and you haven't stood alone. You have had significant help. We've never stand alone. You will never stand alone. When Ukraine's freedom was threatened, the American people, like generations of Americans before us, did not hesitate. The support from all across this country, Americans of every walk of life, Democrats and Republicans alike, had the resources and to rebound and resounding united way to provide unequivocal and unbending support for Ukraine. Because we understand in our bones that Ukraine's fight is part of something much bigger. The American people know that if we stand by in the face of such blatant attacks on liberty and democracy and the core principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity, the world would surely face worse consequences. As I said, when Putin rolled his tanks into Ukraine in February, American people are prepared to have us stand up to bullies, stand up for freedom. That's who we are as Americans, and that's exactly what we've done. Even before the invasion began and Putin threatened Ukraine by building up his forces, we helped make sure Ukraine would be prepared to defend itself, even before they crossed into Ukraine. We provided a steady stream of defensive weapons, including air defense systems and artillery, ammunition, and so much more. And we've not done it alone. From the very beginning, the United States rallied allies and partners from around the world to stand strong with Ukraine and impose unprecedented, and I emphasize unprecedented, sanctions and export controls on Russia, making it harder for the Kremlin to wage this brutal war. More than 50 nations have committed nearly 2,000 tanks and other armored vehicles, more than 800 artillery systems, more than 2 million rounds of artillery ammunition, and more than 50 advanced multiple rocket launching systems, anti-ship and air defense systems, all to strengthen Ukraine. Together, we provided billions of dollars in direct budgetary support to make sure the Ukrainian government can keep providing basic fundamental services to the Iranian people, like health care, education, and emergency personnel. This includes another $2 billion that in direct budget support from the American people that the World Bank distributed earlier this week. We provided humanitarian assistance to help the millions of Ukrainians who have been forced to flee their homes, because of Putin's inhumane, brutal war. Communities across Europe have opened their hearts and their homes to help Ukrainians in need. The United States has been proud to welcome more than 221,000 Ukrainians seeking refuge since March of 2022, including as part of Uniting for Ukraine, as part of our Uniting for Ukraine program. And today, USAID is committing more than $374 million in urgently needed humanitarian assistance for Ukraine. This will help provide food and cash assistance for more than 1.5 million Ukrainian people, as well as access to health care, safe drinking water, and help stay warm in the winter for more than 2.5 million Ukrainians. The United States and our allies and partners around the world have delivered a broad range of assistance at historic speed and has been critical to bolstering Ukraine's success thus far. Ukraine has won the Battle of Kyiv, has won the Battle of Kherson, has won the Battle of Kharkiv. Ukraine has defied Russia's expectations at every single turn. And President Zelensky, you have made it clear that he is open to pursuing, well, let me put it this way. He's not open, but you're open to pursuing peace. You're open to pursuing a just peace. We also know that Putin has no intention of stopping this cruel war. And the United States is committed to ensuring that the brave Ukrainian people can continue to defend their country against Russian aggression as long as it takes. And I want to thank the members of Congress for their broad bipartisan support to Ukraine. And I look forward to signing the omnibus bill soon, which includes $45 billion in additional funding for Ukraine. I'll also sign into law the National Defense Authorization Act, which includes authorities to make it easier for the Department of Defense to procure critical munitions and defense materials for Ukraine and other key materials to strengthen our national security. Today, I'm announcing the next tranche of our security assistance to Ukraine. $1.85 billion package of security assistance that includes both direct transfers of equipment that Ukraine needs, as well as contracts to supply ammunition Ukraine will need in the months ahead for its artillery, its tanks, and its rocket launchers. Critically, in addition to these new capabilities, like precision aerial munitions, the package will include a Patriot missile battery, which will train Ukrainian forces to operate as part of the ongoing effort to help bolster Ukraine's air defense. It's going to take some time to complete the necessary training, but the Patriot battery will be another critical asset for Ukraine as it defends itself against Russian aggression. Altogether, today's new security assistance with humanitarian funding amounts to $2.2 billion in additional support for the Ukrainian people. We should be clear about what Russia is doing. It is purposefully attacking Ukraine's critical infrastructure, destroying the systems that provide heat and light to the Ukrainian people during the coldest, darkest part of the year. Russia is using winter as a weapon, freezing people, starving people, cutting them off from one another. It's the latest example of the outrageous atrocities the Russian forces are committing against innocent Ukrainian civilians, children, and their families. And the United States is working together with our allies and partners to provide critical equipment to help Ukraine make emergency repairs to their power transmission systems and strengthen the stability of Ukraine's grid in the face of Russia's targeted attacks. We're also working to hold Russia accountable, including efforts in Congress that will make it easier to seek justice for Russia's war crimes in Ukraine. Let me close with this. Tonight is the fourth night of Hanukkah, a time when Jewish people around the world, President Zelensky and many of the families among them, honor the timeless miracle of a small band of warriors fighting for their values and their freedom against a much larger foe, and how they endured and how they overcame. How the flame of faith, with only enough oil for one day, burned brightly for 8 days. A story of survival and resilience that reminds us that the coldest days of the year, that light will always prevail over darkness, and hope drives away despair. And that the human spirit is unconquerable as long as there are good people willing to do what is right. This year has brought so much needless suffering and loss to the Ukrainian people. But I want you to know, President Zelensky, I want you to know that all the people of Ukraine to know as well. The American people have been with you every step of the way, and we will stay with you. We will stay with you for as long as it takes. What you're doing, what you've achieved, it matters not just to Ukraine, but to the entire world. And together, I have no doubt we'll keep the flame of liberty burning bright, and the light will remain and prevail over the darkness. Thank you for being here, Mr. President. We're going to stand with you.
Thank you. Шановний пане президенте.
Dear Mr. President,
Yeah, please.
please put on the equipment.
Шановний
Once
пане
again,
президенте Байден.
Mr. President,
Шановні
President
присутні,
Biden,
шановні журналісти.
audience, journalists, ladies and gentlemen.
Я приїхав до
I
Сполучених
came here
Штатів,
to the United
щоб
States
передати слова
to
вдячності від
forward
українського народу
the
усім
thank
американцям,
the word of
народу,
thanks
який
to
робить
the
так
people of
багато для
America,
України. Я дякую вам
people
всім
who
за
do
це.
so much for Ukraine. I am
Цей
thankful
візит
for all of
Сполучені
this.
Штати
This
Америки
visit
став
relations
американського
with the
лідерства.
United States and the
За
American
300
leadership.
днів
In the
цієї
last 30
війни
days of
ми
this
розпочали
war,
дійсно новий
we have
етап
started a
наших
new
взаємних
phase of
України і США. Ми
our
вийшли на
interrelations with the
рівень
United States.
реального
We
союзництва, яке на
became a real
100% наповнено реальним
partners
змістом.
and allies
Я сьогодні
with
це
the
відчув
content.
на всіх
And
моїх
I felt today
зустрічах,
during
в
all of
усіх
my meetings and during
переговорах.
our
Я хочу ще раз
talks.
подякувати пану
Once again, I would
президенту
like to thank Mr.
Байдену
President,
за щиру
President Biden, for
підтримку
his
і, що дуже
candid
важливо,
support and what is
розуміння
very
України,
important, the
а
understanding
також за
of Ukraine
будівництво і
and for
підтримання
the
міжнародної
support
коаліції
of the
для
international
посилення
coalition
міжнародного
to
правопорядку. Спрямовані мудрі кроки,
efforts,
які
his
об'єднують
steps
спільноту,
that
зокрема глобальний
unite
південь.
the partners and
Коли усі країни
global south.
світу
When all
займають
countries
чітку
of the
позицію на
world
захист міжнародного права,
take some
на мирну
position
співпрацю
and are
і
focusing
взаєморозуміння,
on
це
cooperation
корисно
and
для усіх
mutual
країн,
understanding. This is
безумовно,
very
для України,
useful for
для
all of the
Сполучених Штатів
countries, for
Америки.
Ukraine, for the United States.
Я хочу подякувати
I want to
Конгресу за
thank the
двопалатну і
Congress
двопартійну
for
підтримку і
bipartisan,
перечуваю
bicameral
сьогодні
support.
змістовні
And
зустрічі з очільником Палати
I am
представників і Сенату за
looking
рішення
forward to good
Конгресу на
meetings
посилення
with the
свободи.
members
І
of the
зараз я
Congress
якраз
and their
проводжу цей
support.
візит
This is the
новими
visit
заходами
that
в Конгресі.
I'm here today to
Головне
meet with the
питання
Congress.
усіх моїх
The
переговорів
main
сьогодні
issue
це
during
зміцнення України.
today's
Це
talks
наступний
is to
рік, це наш
strengthen
рух до
Ukraine.
перемоги у
Next
війні
year,
за
our movement
незалежність.
forward to
Ми маємо чудові
fight
новини,
for our
з якими
freedom
я
and
повертаюся
independence.
додому.
I have good
Президент
news
Байден
returning
сьогодні
home.
оголосив
President
про
Biden
новий
announced
пакет
terrorist country and their terror attack to strike our energy sector, our people, and our infrastructure. We had a very good negotiation and talks about our strategic steps, which we discussed with President Biden, and what we expect next year and for what we are preparing. This is very important for all Ukrainians, and I am hopeful. And once again, thank you, Mr. President, for 45 billion, because this is a big assistance, and I hope that the Congress will approve this financial assistance for our country. This is almost 45 billion. Thank you very much for the support. Every dollar of this investment for the United States is going to be a strengthening of global security. I know that the American leadership will be strong and will play an important role in global scope. And the United States will help us to defend our values and independence. And regardless of changes in the Congress, I believe that there will be bipartisan and bicameral support. And I know that everybody works for this. And of course, during all of my meetings today, we discussed issues of standoff against terror of Russia, the destruction of our energy infrastructure. We need to survive this winter. We need to protect our people, and we need to be very specific in this area. This is a key humanitarian issue for us right now. This is the survival issue. We are discussing sanctions and legal pressure on the terrorist country Russia. Russia needs to be held accountable for everything it does against us, against our people, against Europe and the whole free world. And it is very important that we have the peace formula, and for that we offer very specific steps what America can do to help us to implement them. We propose global formula for peace summit. I'm thankful for our American counterparts that they feel us and understand how important it is to continue and stay on course and work on integrity of the country and international rule of law. We will also need, as soon as our defense capabilities will be strengthened in the next few months, I don't want to discuss it in details right now. I believe you understand why, but I am very grateful to President Biden. Thank you for your attention to all of these issues. Glory to Ukraine.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We're going to take questions from 4 different reporters. I'm going to start with Alex of Yahoo News.
Thank you, Mr. President. In 2022, you presided over a bipartisan international coalition to support Ukraine. How will you keep that coalition from fraying in 2023? And President Zelensky, welcome to Washington on this beautiful winter day. What is your message to the American people?
Well, answering your questions first, I'm not at all worried about holding the alliance.
Наше союзницьке партнерство з країнами Європейського Союзу і іншими країнами.
I assume this is simultaneous. All right. Okay. I've never seen NATO or the EU more united about anything at all. And I see no sign of there being any change. We all know what's at stake here. Our European partners, all the more so. They fully understand it. This is about, we've never seen a major invasion of a European country since World War II. And they see no signs of it, that Putin is going to do anything to change that unless we resist and we help the Ukrainians resist. We all know what's at stake. The very idea of sovereignty, the UN Charter. Putin thought he would weaken NATO. Instead, he strengthened NATO. I once said to him that we talk about he wanted to see Europe end up being divided. And instead, what did he do? He produced a more united Europe with Sweden and Finland joining. So I don't see any reason to believe there will be any lessening of support. And as we reach out to our NATO allies, our Secretary of Defense and our Secretary of State, we get continued support, not only there, but also from around the world, from Japan and many other countries as well. So I feel very good about the solidarity of support for Ukraine.
Thank you for your question. Thank you very much. You asked me what are the message to
Дякую за
American people.
запитання.
I think I will tell you very simple things, which are very important for me. And I think so that we have the same values and the same understanding of the life, the sense of the life. My message, I wish you peace. I think that is the main thing, and you understand it only when the war in your country, when somebody like these terrorists from Russia come to your houses. And I wish you to see your children alive and adult. And I wish you to see your children when they will go to universities and to see their children. I think that is the main thing what I can wish you. And of course, to be together with us, jointly, because we really fight for our common victory against this tyranny. That is real life, and we will win. And I really want win together. Thanks so much. Not want, sorry, I'm sure.
You call on one of your people, press person?
Yeah. Будь ласка. Канал Інтер.
Yeah, thank you. Dmitry Anopchenko, Ukrainian television. President Zelensky, President Biden, I got a question to both of you, but firstly, as Ukrainian, and I mean it, I want to thank the United States for supporting my country. And, you know, my family is in Ukraine, and I definitely understand they will not be alive today if America will not support my country, both politically and militarily. So thank you for this. It's honest.
Will.
And as of my question, we enter a new phase of this war, and you definitely discussed today which path to choose, how the war could come to an end, and what's next. Will it turn into a new counteroffensive or some kind of peace talks? So, Mr. Biden, Mr. Zelensky, could you share your vision? What's the fair way to end this war, and how do you understand this word, fair peace? Thank you.
My view.
Your guy.
I think we have. I see.
Although I like him very much already.
Ви розпочали це
You
запитання.
have started this question.
I'm sorry. Sometimes I switch on my native language. Ви почали з того, що ви
You have
сказали.
started by stating that your family is in Kiev and without the assistance of the United States. This is absolutely true. The U.S. leadership in this assistance is strong, and again, I would like to remind you that U.S. family will be in danger without the armed forces of Ukraine, which is very important. That concerns your questions per se. What would you like to hear? Just peace? I don't know. I don't know what just peace is. It's a very philosophical description.